I never imagined that the man who'd stolen everything from me would one day beg for mercy in my own voice, his pleas echoing from lips that used to be mine. Exposing a $600 million fraud should have crowned me a whistleblower saint. Instead, it turned me into the sacrificial lamb on national TV, slaughtered live for his family's empire. But when that anonymous call came at 3 a.m., whispering promises of a swap that defied God and science, I didn't hesitate. I stepped into his skin, ready to burn it all down from the inside. My name is Raven Blackwood, and up until that godforsaken Tuesday in July, I was just another cog in the glittering machine of Wall Street's underbelly. 32 years old, sharp as a stiletto heel, with a corner office at Harlan Enterprises that overlooked the Hudson River like it was my personal moat. I'd clawed my way up from a trailer park in rural Ohio, where the closest thing to ambition was the annual county fair's demolition derby. Harvard Business School on a full ride, internships that bled into all-nighters auditing Fortune 500 ledgers, and a moral compass that pointed true north even when the paychecks tempted me south. Harlan Enterprises wasn't just a job, it was my redemption arc. The proof that a girl from the Rust Belt could play in the big leagues without selling her soul. Or so I thought. It started with a discrepancy. A tiny one. Really, just a rounding error in the Q2 derivatives report that no one else would have batted an eye at. But I'm the kind of accountant who treats numbers like lovers. You don't ignore the little lies, because they grow into monsters. I pulled the thread, and the whole sweater unraveled. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, shell companies masquerading as nonprofits, and a labyrinth of trades that funneled $600 million straight into the pockets of the Harlan Family Trust. At the center, not the silver-haired CEO, Edward Harlan, with his folksy TED Talks about ethical capitalism. No, it was his golden boy, the heir apparent, Landon Harlan, 28, Yale legacy, and the smirking face of the next-gen tech bro revolution. Landon wasn't just the CFO, he was the prince of the palace. The one who schmoozed venture capitalists over $2,000 bottles of scotch while the rest of us crunched data in fluorescent hell. I'd known him since my first day, flirty emails that bordered on harassment, invitations to networking parties at his Hamptons estate that I always declined. He called me Raven the Raven, a nod to my dark hair and sharper tongue, like it was endearing instead of predatory. But beneath the charm, there was rot. I'd seen glimpses, the way he'd override compliance checks with a wink, or how interns whispered about creative accounting that kept his bonuses fat. The deeper I dug, the uglier it got. Emails timestamped from his personal server, authorizing bribes to regulators. Wire transfers to a political PAC run by his father's old Senate buddies. And the kicker? A forged signature on a whistleblower suppression agreement, my signature, dated 2 years back, when I'd been on maternity leave. Wait. No, I'd never been pregnant. But there it was, in black and white, Raven Blackwood, consenting to silence on irregularities in exchange for a phantom promotion. Someone had buried me in this fraud long before I even sniffed it out. They'd made me the fall guy, retroactively. So if it ever blew up, I'd be the crooked insider, not the prince. Betrayal doesn't hit like a thunderclap. It seeps in like fog off the river, cold and choking. Landon had played me from the start. That mentorship he'd offered early on, a setup to plant the seeds of complicity. The late-night meetings where he'd accidentally leave documents on my desk? Bait. And the secret I'd buried deeper than any ledger, the affair I'd ended 6 months in, when his charm curdled into control. I'd walked away clean, or so I thought. But he'd kept the receipts, blurry photos from a hotel bar, texts I'd sent in a moment of weakness. Leverage. All of it. To pin the blame on me if the house of cards collapsed. I couldn't let it stand. Not for the shareholders who'd lose their nest eggs. Not for the employees who'd get pink-slipped in the fallout. And sure as hell not for the girl from Ohio who'd finally believed she belonged. So I compiled the dossier, 500 pages of irrefutable evidence, cross-referenced with blockchain audits and forensic accounting I'd done on my own dime. I leaked it to the Wall Street Journal at midnight, from a burner laptop in a midtown diner that smelled like grease and regret. By dawn, the story broke like a fever. Harlan Ayre's empire built on $600 million mirage, the headline screamed. CNBC looped it all morning, pundits dissecting the Harlan scandal with the glee of vultures at a kill. My name was everywhere, Raven Blackwood, the brave insider who'd risked it all. For 12 glorious hours, I was untouchable. Reporters camped outside my apartment in Chelsea, offering book deals and TED slots. Even Edward Harlan's assistant called, voice oily with feigned gratitude. Mr. Harlan would like to discuss your future with the firm. But Landon? He didn't call. He plotted. The firing happened at 4 p.m. Prime time for maximum humiliation. Harlan Enterprises' annual shareholder call, streamed live on YouTube and picked up by every major network. I tuned in from my office, heart pounding like a bass drum, expecting maybe a press conference, a quiet severance. Instead, the feed opened on the executive boardroom, all polished mahogany and American flags. There was Edward, stern patriarch in his navy suit, flanked by lawyers like attack dogs. And center stage, microphone in hand, Landon Harlan, hair slicked, tie straight, that boyish grin masking the serpent underneath. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice steady as a surgeon's scalpel. Today marks a dark chapter for Harlan Enterprises. We've uncovered evidence of deliberate sabotage from within, a calculated betrayal by one of our own. The camera panned to a split screen, my employee photo, looking fresh-faced and foolish next to a damning graphic of falsified ledgers stamped with my digital signature. My stomach dropped. Sabotage? That was my evidence he was twisting. Raven Blackwood, he continued, pausing for the cameras to zoom in, a mid-level accountant with a grudge, has fabricated claims to extort the company. We've terminated her immediately and are cooperating fully with the SEC. This witch hunt ends here. Harlan Enterprises stands on integrity. The chat exploded. Fire Raven trended within minutes. Shareholders cheered. Trolls called me a feminazi gold digger. My phone blew up. Voicemails from colleagues distancing themselves. Texts from friends asking if it was true. I bolted from the office, past security guards who'd once nodded hello, now eyeing me like a thief. By the time I hit the street, rain slicking the sidewalks, the narrative had flipped. I wasn't the hero, I was the villain, a disgruntled ex-employee out for blood. That night, holed up in my apartment with a bottle of bourbon and the TV muted on endless replays of Landon's performance, the betrayal sank its teeth in deep. He'd taken my career, my reputation, my shot at justice, and pinned his sins on me like a scarlet letter. The forged docs weren't just a frame job, they were a grave he'd dug for me years ago, anticipating I'd catch on eventually. The secret he buried? Our affair wasn't just leverage. During those months, he'd confessed fragments of the fraud over pillow talk, testing if I'd bite. When I didn't, he retrofitted the blame. I'd carried his crime on my back without knowing, a scapegoat in waiting. Sleep was a joke. At 3:17 a.m., My burner buzzed, an unknown number. Manhattan area code. I almost ignored it, but something in the silence of the apartment made me answer. Raven Blackwood? The voice was gravelly, accented, Eastern European. Maybe, with the clipped precision of a man who'd seen too many shadows. Who the hell is this? A friend? Or soon to be? You exposed the prince, but he wore your skin first.
Now.
Imagine slipping into his, wearing his face to the gallows he built for you. I laughed, bitter and broken. What is this? Some black hat hacker prank? Save it for the dark web. No prank. A procedure. Experimental. Irreversible. $4-5 million, your settlement. Perhaps we swap. Neural mapping. Quantum entanglement bullshit the feds don't even know exists. You wake up as Landon Harlan. He wakes up elsewhere. Forgotten. My pulse thundered. It was insane, science fiction wrapped in desperation. But in that hollow hour, with Cancel Raven spiking to 1 million hits, insanity felt like salvation. Tell me more, I whispered.
He did.
A clinic in a nondescript Jersey warehouse. Off-book surgeons who'd fled Eastern Bloc regimes. The swap. 2 hours under. Souls or essences. Whatever. Rewired into new vessels. Risks? Coma. Psychosis.
Death.
But success rate? 80%. He claimed, with testimonials from oligarchs who'd offed rivals without fingerprints. By sunrise, I'd wired the deposit from a crypto wallet I'd set up post-leak. Desperation's a hell of a drug. As the cab idled outside the clinic, rain hammering the roof like Judgment Day, I thought of Landon's smug face on that stream. Soon, it'd be mine to wield. Revenge wasn't a dish, it was a skin suit, and I was ready to wear it tight. The procedure was a blur of needles and humming machines, cold straps pinning my limbs as the anesthesiologist's mask descended. Count backward from 10, he said, eyes like black pearls.
10. 9.
The room spun into void.
8.
I came to gasping, not in a sterile recovery room, but strapped to a leather seat in a private jet hurtling through turbulence. The kind of Gulfstream that screams untouchable elite, cream leather, mahogany accents, a minibar stocked with single malt that could have bought my old apartment. My wrists ached from cuffs that were gone now, and my mouth tasted like copper and regret. I lurched upright, heart slamming, and caught my reflection in the polished bulkhead. Not my reflection. His. Landon Harlan stared back, sharp jaw, ice blue eyes. That perpetual 5 o'clock shadow he cultivated like a trademark. I touched my face, his face, fingers trembling over high cheekbones that weren't mine. The hair was thicker, styled in that effortless tousle, the hands broader, nails manicured to perfection. I was 6'1" now, broad-shouldered in a bespoke Tom Ford suit that hung like armor. Panic clawed up my throat, but beneath it, a dark thrill, electric and wrong. Welcome aboard, Mr. Harlan, a flight attendant cooed, materializing with a tray of caviar and champagne. She was blonde, mid-40s, with the polished deference of someone who'd seen worse mid-flight meltdowns. We're en route to the Dubai summit. ETA 2 hours. Can I freshen your drink? I blinked, forcing a nod, his nod, the one that said yes without words. Scotch. Neat. My voice boomed out, deeper, smoother, laced with that Ivy League drawl I'd always mocked. It fit like a glove. This stolen shell. As she poured, I rifled through the seat pocket. Itinerary for a global fintech ethics panel, irony's bitter pill, plus a burner phone buzzing with encrypted texts. Board meeting tomorrow. Dad's pissed about the leak. Spin it hard. Legal. Escorts confirmed for summit. Brunette. Flexible.
Enjoy. Pas. Ceci signifie.
Burn the Cayman files.
Now. Elle.
The last one from Landon himself?
No.
The swap had happened hours ago. This was residue. His digital ghost. But where was he? In my body. Waking up to my ruined life. The thought sent a shiver of vicious joy through me. Let him taste the gutter. The death threats. The eviction notice I'd ignored in my haze. I downed the scotch. Fire blooming in this unfamiliar gut. And plotted. Revenge wasn't a bonfire, it was a slow roast. And I had his keys to the kitchen. First, consolidate power. As Landon, I could access vaults of intel, sabotage from the throne room. Second, expose the deeper rot. That buried secret? It wasn't just fraud. Buried in the dossiers I'd leaked were hints of worse, human trafficking ties through the shell companies. Migrants funneled as labor consultants for Harlan's overseas data farms. Landon hadn't just stolen money, he'd traded lives, and pinned a slice of it on me via that forged affair NDA, making it look like I'd greenlit the deals. The jet touched down in Dubai's sweltering night, a limo whisking me to the Burj Al Arab like I owned the horizon. The summit was a circus of excess, sheiks in thobes hobnobbing with Silicon Valley vampires, all under crystal chandeliers that dripped like melting gold. Landon, took the stage for the ethics panel, microphone hot in my palm, the audience a sea of expectant faces. Gentlemen, ladies, I began, channeling his charisma like a method actor gone rogue. Integrity isn't a buzzword, it's the spine of innovation. Gasps rippled as I pivoted. But when spines bend, when $600 million vanishes into shadows, it exposes fractures we can't ignore. I dropped the bomb. Specifics from the fraud, veiled as hypotheticals, but laced with enough Harlan Easter eggs to make the room squirm. Whispers turned to murmurs. A Saudi prince leaned in, eyes narrowing. Offstage. The fallout brewed. His PA cornered me in the green room. Botox smooth face creased. What the hell?
Lon?
You're tanking us. I smiled that Harlan's smile, cold as the Gulf breeze. Relax. Victoria. It's controlled chaos. Builds trust. She bought it.
Or feared not to.
But as I slipped into the suite, stripping off the suit to examine this body, taut abs from private trainers, a tattoo on the ribs I'd never noticed, a serpent devouring its tail. Ouroboros bullshit. Doubt crept in. This skin itched with memories not mine, flashes of boardroom conquests. The thrill of the first bribe. The night he drugged a rival's drink at a gala to steal a deal. Echoes. The surgeon had warned. Ghosts in the machine. Back in New York 3 days later, the heat cranked up. Edward summoned me to the penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan like a conquered kingdom. He was a relic 68, paunch straining his suspenders, but eyes like flint. The SEC's circling. Sun. And that stunt in Dubai. Brilliant misdirection. But we need the originals shredded. Blackwood's playing martyr. Make sure she stays buried. I leaned back in Landon's ergonomic throne. Feet up. Consider it done, Dad. But inside, gears turned. Controversial decision 1. I didn't shred. I augmented. Late nights in the server room. Posing as Landon on overtime. I wove digital breadcrumbs, timestamps linking the fraud to Edward's sign-off emails. Not mine. Let the old man twist in the wind. It was petty, sure, but betrayal's a family affair. Meanwhile, reports trickled in. Raven Blackwood, spotted in a Jersey flophouse. Ragged and ranting about stolen identity. Landon, trapped in my frame. Unraveling. Good. Let him claw at the bars I'd once rattled. But power's a drug, and this body amplified it. Invites poured in, fundraisers with senators, backroom deals with crypto kings. I played the part, sealing alliances with a wink and a wire transfer, all while siphoning funds to anonymous accounts. Revenge fund. Call it. For the twist I was building. The first real move came at the quarterly gala, black tie affair at the Met. I arrived as Landon. Arm candy on one side, a model who mistook my distance for mystery. The elite swirling like champagne bubbles. There, across the Vermeer, was Victoria, whispering to a cluster of VCs. I sidled up, dropping the bomb casual as a canopy. Heard about the Cayman glitch? Dad's oversight. But we're cleaning house. Eyes widened, seeds planted. By dessert, rumors hummed. Edward's the puppet master. Landon's the fixer. Edward cornered me in the coat room, breath hot with gin. What game are you playing?
Boy.
The board's fracturing. I met his gaze. My stolen blues unblinking. The only game that matters.
Dad.
Survival. He backhanded me, sharp sting on this unfamiliar jaw, and stormed out. Bruise bloomed like a medal. Controversial? Hell yes. But it felt right, flipping the script on the patriarch who'd enabled it all. Nights blurred into strategy sessions in Landon's my townhouse on the Upper East Side. Marble counters, Warhol prints mocking from the walls. I'd pore over files, the Ouroboros tattoo itching like a curse. Echoes grew louder, his laughter during a raid on a competitor's IP. The sick thrill of forging my signature. Was I becoming him? Or just borrowing the worst to burn it brighter? The phone call that shifted the tide came mid-October, as leaves turned bloody on Central Park's edges. Unknown number again, the surgeon. Voice tinny over scrambler. The prince resists. He's lawyered up in your skin, claiming swap delusion. Feds involved. Time's short. Adrenaline surged. Climax loomed. I greenlit Phase 2, the public unmasking. Leaked audio, Landon's own voice. Slurred from a yacht party, boasting about the trafficking side hustle. Collateral for growth, he chuckled. It hit X at dawn. Viral within hours. Harlan horror trended. Protests outside HQ, with signs screaming, blood money. Edward called an emergency board meeting. I walked in as the conquering hero, or villain, depending on the angle. We pivot, I declared, voice ringing. Full transparency. Resignations where needed. Eyes on Edward, who paled like milk. He fought. Of course, accusations of my instability, calls for psych eval. But the board, smelling blood,
Turned.
By noon, he was out. Stepping stone to the street. In Landon's skin, ascended. CFO to interim CEO. The prodigal son returning purified. Press hailed the Harlan reckoning, crediting Landon's bold reforms. Irony tasted like victory. But as confetti fell in my mind's eye, a text pinged from Raven. You think you won? Check the safe.
Burros. Bitch.
My blood iced. The tattoo. His final trap. The safe was in the townhouse basement, a vault behind a false wine cellar stocked with vintages older than my grudge. I'd avoided it. Instinct, or his echo, whispering not yet.
Now.
With Edward's resignation ink still drying and the board eating from my hand, I punched the code. 0815, his birthday. The narcissistic prick. The door hissed open, revealing stacks of bearer bonds, a Glock 19 oiled and loaded, and a manila envelope thick as sin. Inside, photos. Grainy.
Time-stamped.
Me real me. Raven, in a dimly lit Cayman boardroom, signing off on the first shell transfer. But that wasn't possible. I'd never set foot there. Wait. Flashes hit. Not mine but his, a gala after-party 2 years back. Me 3 whiskeys deep. Him slipping something in my glass. Rohypnol. The date rape haze. I'd woken in my apartment, chalking it up to a blackout. The promotion he'd dangled as apology. But the photos? Deep fakes? No, too real. My signature looping just so. Deeper, affidavits from witnesses, migrants. Actually, coached to swear I'd inspected the labor camps. Greenlit the horrors. And the twist. The gut punch reversal. My DNA on a vial from one site. Labeled Blackwood Oversight Sample. They'd harvested it during a routine physical. Framed me as the architect. Landon hadn't just pinned it, he'd built the noose from my own flesh. Worse, a letter. His handwriting. Dear Raven, if you're reading this, you're wearing me. Cute trick. But you were always the monster. That affair? You initiated. Claws on my back. The fraud? Your idea. Whispered in bed to impress me. I documented it all for protection. Enjoy the crown, it's thorned. Yours.
Elle. Lies.
All of it. Or was it? Echoes screamed yes, nights I'd forced from memory. Ambition twisting into complicity. Had I borne his crimes not as scapegoat, but seductress? The swap hadn't just given me his body. It had unearthed the grave I'd helped dig. Blind and eager. Rage boiled. But now it turned inward. A Mobius strip of blame. Controversial decision 3. Mercy. Or madness. I could have torched it all, leaked the truth. Collapse the empire. Take us both down in flames. But power whispered sweeter. As CEO, I could reform. Redirect the rot to good. Or deeper, wield it. Become the villain I feared. The climax unfolded at the holiday gala. Harlan's redemption ball at Lincoln Center. Crystal echoing with toasts to my Landon's vision. Cameras flashed. Senators clapped my back. In the wings, Raven, him, waited, escorted by feds in ill-fitting suits. He'd lawyered up, spinning the swap as corporate espionage, me as the unstable usurper. The board murmured, stocks dipped 3% on the rumor. I took the stage, lights blinding, heart a war drum. Friends, I boomed, his timbre perfect. Tonight, we close the book on shadows. Pause for applause. Then, but truths demand light. I cued the video, not the leak, but a confession.
Me.
In this body, detailing the fraud's roots, the trafficking, the frames.
Gasps.
But the twist, I named names, Edward. Yes. But also Raven Blackwood, the insider who'd known and stayed silent for the climb. The room froze. She wore ambition like armor, I said, voice cracking artfully. But it blinded her to the cost. Projections flickered, the photos, the vial, blurred for deniability. Him, in my old skin, lunged from the crowd, shrieking, "Liar! That's me, you stole it." Security swarmed. The feed cut live. But clips went nuclear. By morning, the narrative locked. Landon Harlan, the reformer, exposing his own past sins, including betting and betraying a corrupt colleague. Raven Blackwood carted off to Bellevue, raving of body swaps. The feds dropped it as delusion. The surgeon vanished. Clinic torched in an accident. I kept the throne. Reforms rolled out, ethics audits, restitution funds for victims. The empire stabilized. Stocks soared 15%. Press crowned me the turnaround king. Invites from Davos to the White House. Nights in the townhouse. I trace the Ouroboros, wondering whose monster stares back. His echoes fade, but mine sharpen. Did I whisper those ideas? Did I sign in that haze? The swap reversed the truth, not just his crimes on me, but mine unearthed in him. Ending? Happy. If you count power as bomb. I walk free. Or at least uncollared. Sipping scotch in a body that fits looser each day. Tragic. If you see the girl from Ohio lost forever. Her vengeance a mirror that cracked her soul. Debatable as hell, hero or hydra. You tell me. But in quiet hours, when the city hums below, I dial the old burner. It rings empty, a ghost line to nowhere. And I smile his smile at the nothing on the other end. Revenge isn't closure, it's the echo that never quiets.